The hair texture matters. Is your hair fine, medium, or coarse? Is it curly? Is it wavy? How is the condition? These all play a factor in what developer you use and how you formulate, as well as how long you're going to process the hair. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Laura, I'm a hairstylist, and today we're going to talk about 6 reasons why I personally don't recommend bleaching your hair yourself at home. You may think that it's not that hard and it looks relatively easy to color hair, but let me tell you that there is a reason that we are required to have a license to color hair. Even people that go to school for this and that are licensed still make mistakes. There is so much, especially when it comes to bleaching hair, that you need to know about before you perform the service in order to ensure that nothing goes terribly wrong. Number 1 is that bleach is a very strong chemical. It's very different than regular hair dye, and there's a lot more risks involved. You're not just risking the color coming out wrong, you're risking absolutely destroying and frying your hair. Bleach is completely different from regular hair dye, and you really need to know what you're doing in order to work with it. Okay, so number 2 is if you are not a licensed professional, then you likely only have access to low quality bleach. As a hairstylist, even though I know what I'm doing, I would never use a low quality bleach on my hair or any of my clients' hair. The professional brands only sell to licensed professionals. You may be able to find some of these brands on Amazon because they're being sold by third-party sellers, but you can't always even trust that. The manufacturers that produce these low-quality bleaches, they cut a lot of corners in order to be able to mass produce this to the general public. And in doing so, they have to use additives that are terrible for your hair and skin, and they don't work nearly as well. You may experience an allergic reaction or some sort of a reaction to a lower quality bleach, whereas you wouldn't experience the same reaction to a higher quality professional grade bleach. Okay, so number 3 is, do you know how to formulate the bleach? Formulating is choosing what you're going to mix together in order to get the results that you want. What you do is dependent on what your starting canvas is. If you have virgin hair versus colored hair, you're going to want to use something different in order to get from point A to point B. So this means if you watch a tutorial on what to mix together, it might not work for you, even if it worked for the person in the video, and that's because you have completely different hair situations. Even if both of the hair is colored, the hair texture matters. Is your hair fine, medium, or coarse? Is it curly? Is it wavy? How is the condition? These all play a factor in what developer you use and how you formulate, as well as how long you're going to process the hair. These are all things that we as hairstylists had to study and learn over years and gain as experience before we were able to properly formulate to get from point A to point B successfully. If you're lacking in this experience, you could wind up in an absolute disaster of a situation. And the last thing I want is for you to wind up destroying your hair. I've seen too many people come in that thought that they could color their hair themselves at home, and they come in for me to fix their hair, and it is heartbreaking because they've absolutely fried it and they've broken it off in chunks, and it is like 6 different colors. Okay, so number 4 is the bleach application. Because bleach is so strong and it's so finicky, you have to be extremely precise about how it's applied. When applying bleach, you need to make sure that you don't overlap previously bleached hair, because if you do, that is going to snap right off. I have seen clients attempt to color their hair themselves, and they were doing a root touch-up, but instead of only coloring the dark on their roots, they accidentally got the bleach on the previously lightened part, and the hair broke off right there. So they had pieces of hair that were this long all around their head. Bleach also swells and expands as it oxidizes, so that means in the foil, over time as it's processing, it gets bigger. So you have to be extremely careful when applying your highlights that you're not taking the bleach over the foil line, because then you're gonna get bleed marks at the scalp. Even if the bleach is in the foil when you first apply it, if you went too far to the edge of the foil, it's going to expand, and then you're gonna have a big splot on your head. It takes years of training for professionals to be able to do this perfectly on other people, let alone for you to try to do on yourself in your bathroom. Okay, number 5 is knowing when to remove the bleach. Okay, so this is a tricky one, and the only way you can learn this is just with experience. You need to be able to figure out the perfect time to rinse the bleach where it's lifted enough so it's not going to be brassy, but it hasn't sat on long enough to where the hair is over-processed and going to break off. So this means you need to learn how to look inside of the foil and determine if the hair is still intact. Determine if it's healthy and if it can continue going. Another thing with bleach is it kind of fakes you out. So because most bleach is blue in color, this means it neutralizes the yellow in the hair when you're looking at it. So when you look inside of a foil, you may think that it looks great, but then you rinse it off and you find out that your hair is still orange. So there's definitely a sweet spot to know, okay, has it lifted enough and has it not been too long that the hair is going to turn to bubblegum and fall apart? Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll take certain foils out that have processed enough and I'll leave other foils in that need more time. This is common in certain areas on the head. For example, face framing pieces are very fragile vellus hairs. That means these are going to process a lot quicker than the rest of the hair on your head. So unless you use a lower formula, you're going to have to take those off sooner. So these are all things that you need to know, and you can't possibly learn all of this without experience. Number 6 is toning bleached hair. So bleaching the hair is typically the first step in coloring the hair with bleach. Bleach will only lift the color in the lightness or darkness and expose the underlying pigment. You then have to decide what shade or tone you want to use on the hair. And you can't just look at a swatch in a book and say, I want that tone, so that's the color I'm going to use. You have to take into consideration the underlying pigment and the color that the hair currently is. If the hair is lifted to a level 8, that means that there's still quite a bit of yellow left in the hair. So in order to combat that yellow, you're going to have to formulate to neutralize that out and then add the tone that you want. And depending on what tone you want, depends on what level you want to lift the hair to. Some colors you may want to leave a little bit of yellow in the hair, while others you need to remove it completely. So it's very important to learn the color wheel as well as the color chemistry of toning the hair before you select what color you're going to put on it. Okay, so what do I suggest doing instead of bleaching your own hair? Unfortunately, I don't suggest doing any sort of bleaching on yourself at home under any circumstance, just because I don't want you to ruin your hair. And this isn't because I want you to go spend money at a hair salon. It's because I genuinely don't want to see people ruining their own hair and putting themselves in a terrible situation where they're either losing their hair and it's falling out and breaking off, or they have to go spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars more to get it fixed than if they would have just gone to a stylist to begin with. If money is tight, you should find a stylist that offers mini services so you're not having to do the full thing every time, and that will help save you some money in between. And at home, you should be maintaining it with purple shampoo or color toning conditioners so that will hold you over until your next visit in the salon. I'll go ahead and link my favorite purple shampoos in the description below. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments. As always, thanks for watching and have a good hair day.